and welcome back to the online summit series, Yoga Beyond Exercise, conversations to heal and lead us into the new paradigm of peace, harmony, and prosperity. Today's guest is Susun Weed. Susun is a wise woman, a shaman. She's a spiritual teacher with a joyful spirit. Susun is an encyclopedia of knowledge around herbs and health. She's the author of several books. And today we are going to talk to her about some of the things that she does to keep herself healthy. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Welcome, Susun, to the Summit series. She's going to take us on a journey with her as we navigate what's coming through and needs to be shared. So, Susun, welcome and thank you.
So thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here, and especially a topic that's so close to my heart, yoga and beyond yoga. I went to my first yoga class in New York City when I was 19. And I'm now in my mid-70s, so I've been doing it for a long time. And I have definitely seen the tremendous benefit. And of course, there's a lot of things that we get from yoga. We get strength, we get flexibility, we get equanimity. But really, I think one of the most basic and generative things in yoga is the breath. Yoga is the yoke. It ties these things together, but breath is the yoke that ties it all together. In every system, in every esoteric or shamanic way that I've had the privilege to participate in or learn about, it starts with and always comes back to the breath. So let's think about what's happening when we breathe in a very simple way. So I'm going to breathe in air, which contains a lot of oxygen. And I'm going to take that into my body, and my blood says, whoopee, oxygen, we need that. Let's carry that oxygen around to the cells. And I am then going to exhale oxygen plus carbon dioxide. 1 atom of carbon and 2 atoms of oxygen. So that's now coming out in my breath. That's a waste product for me. Just like carbon monoxide is a waste product of burning gasoline, carbon dioxide is a waste product of my body burning fuel for energy. You know, from the wise woman perspective, there are no toxins. There's only I eat you and you eat me. So what happens to that carbon dioxide, that waste product that is leaving my body? Well, the plants are going to take it in, aren't they? The plants are going to take in that carbon, that 1 carbon atom and those 2 atoms of oxygen. And they're going to say, thank you so very, very much. And they're going to start a process called photosynthesis, the creation through sunlight that plants do. Excuse me. And that starts most easily with carbon monoxide. Di is 2, mo is 1. So they get the carbon dioxide and they have to cleave an oxygen atom off to get to carbon monoxide. And that, you already guessed it, goes out into the air and we breathe it in. So in a way, when we say, oh, we're connected to the plants through our breath, it's kind of an esoteric idea, but it's not really esoteric at all, is it?
No.
It's not metaphysical, it's physical. It's an actual physical thing that atoms of carbon and oxygen are being exchanged between my living body and the living body of the plants. But let's take that a little deeper. Were those atoms just created yesterday?
No.
Right? In fact, those are the same atoms of oxygen and the same atoms of carbon that had been around on this planet for a long, long time. I was just listening to Joanna Macy, the ecological activist, 88 years old this year. And she was saying, it's time we act at our age. And what she means by that is that the Earth is approximately 5 billion years old. And everything we are is made of the Earth, so we are 5 billion years old. The oxygen and the carbon that you are breathing and exchanging with the plants exchanged with the dinosaurs. Not theoretically, not fantastically, but literally. So you are literally taking into yourself the very atoms that have been continuously in use, being breathed in and out through all of life on this planet. That's just one breath. Wow. When we start to really understand what's happening with the plants, we start to see that there's a great sickness on this planet, and that sickness is the belief that there's a difference between matter and spirit.
Yeah.
And the breath brings us back to awareness that matter and spirit are one, because spirit is breath. We inspire. We literally take the spirit in, we take the prana in, we take the chi in, we take in what Hildegard of Bingen, wonderful herbalist who lived about 1100 years ago, called viriditas, the greening force that pulses through all of nature. Whatever you call it, we take it in with our breath, in addition to those atoms of oxygen and carbon that are always circulating, always circulating. You know, one of the things that the wise woman tradition talks about is this spiraling movement, and how unhealthy it is for us to look for balance. You notice that I didn't say that one of the things that yoga gives us is balance, which is one of the usual 5, right? I said equanimity. So let's use breath to explore balance. You and everyone who's listening, please breathe in and hold your breath. And now you are balanced. You have the breath in, you're utterly balanced. Very lovely. But sooner or later, some of you already are yogi, not quite yet, are going to find the need to breathe out. Life demands it. Yes? Did you breathe out?
I did.
Yes. In order to be alive, you had to leave balance. So there's some pretty strong evidence that we're right, that it all started with a big kabang. And that big kabang spewed atoms of hydrogen everywhere. All of space-time was evenly covered with atoms of hydrogen in perfect balance. And there we would still be if there hadn't been a perturbation. And the perturbation entered this field and nudged it just enough to set a spiral going, to set all of those atoms into spiraling. And as they spiraled into stars, suns, which live through their life cycle, had nuclear reactors at their cores, which allowed them to make other elements. Blew up, spewed these other elements out into the universe. Again, not due to balance, but due to dynamic disequilibrium. The dynamic disequilibrium of taking in and blowing it out. the dynamic disequilibrium. If in yoga you are doing a balanced pose, what are you really paying attention to? You're really paying attention to all those tiny little muscle movements that are going on, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Because if you try to just be balanced, you're going to fall over.
Yep.
You have to quixotically shift your attention to everything that's moving in your body in order to maintain that equanimity. So the wise woman tradition asks us to be alive and to give up our spurious search for balance.
Mm.
And isn't that a relief?
Absolutely.
It's spiraling, and we're on that spiral. There's going to be high points and there's going to be low points. One of my friends said to me, when you die, what happens is they sit you down and they tell you all the wrong things you did. And I said, no. When you die, they sit you down and they tell you how all the things you thought were wrong were just right. One of the things that I've seen is, and this is true of yoga, it's true of healing, it's true of a wide variety of different things, is that we can understand more of what's going on if we understand that there are three traditions at play in our world. The scientific tradition, which measures and fixes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm on an airplane, I want the scientific tradition, don't I?
Oh, yeah.
I do not want purple Kool-Aid in the tank of that airplane. I want the altimeter to actually read how high we are above the imaginary surface of the earth. Right, I want the scientific tradition. I want it measurable and I want it fixed. It may or may not work so great for yoga or the human body. I've had yoga classes with teachers who tried to get each of the different bodies in class into the same perfect yoga asana. You have too, haven't you?
Oh, I never try to do that.
No, I'm not saying that you have, but you've been in classes like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's crazy.
Right? It's very, it's a very scientific, rigid, fixed thing. And it's very difficult to be alive in fixity.
Yeah.
So many people wander off from the scientific tradition and find themselves in the heroic tradition. And the heroic tradition is the one that says you have to be balanced and you have to be clean. And unfortunately, a lot of the baggage that yoga brought with it from India is in the heroic tradition. Now, we have divested it of much of that baggage over the past 50 years. You don't hear so much anymore about swamis, sucking down, 50 yards of cloth and flossing themselves from their...
I've seen it a lot.
But you were in India, not in the United States.
No, not in the United States.
Not in the United States, exactly. Yeah, exactly, right? So the clean idea. And of course, the more we learn about the microbiome of our gut and the microbiome of our skin and the microbiome of our environment, the more we know that clean is a really dirty word.
Amen.
And the last thing we want is to clean. In fact, when we're talking about living systems, clean is the same as damage and destroy. Right. We wouldn't want to go out into the forest and pick up every leaf and every stick because the forest would die.
So true.
There was a new book just written by an MD who decided to stop bathing. Because he thought that it was probably very bad for his skin. So at first he continued to rinse off with water, but just not use soap. And then after a while he got daring enough to not even do that. And his wife was asked, how does he smell? And she says, like a human being, it's wonderful.
Oh. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, there's several kind of things that I'm known for in the wise woman tradition, which is the third tradition, that if people get fed up enough with detoxifying, cleansing, and trying futilely to balance, that they might often find their way to the wisewoman tradition, which says what we're going to do is nourish wholeness. You just fine the way you are. Or as my mentor, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, used to tell us, you're not okay. And I'm not okay. And that's okay. So whatever you are whole. There's a special kind of picture called a hologram.
Oh.
And a hologram has many things that make it different from other pictures, but the primary one is that if you take and you cut a hologram in half, you don't get a top half and a bottom half, or a right half and a left half. You get two whole holograms. Mm-hmm. But they're a little blurrier. And you can keep cutting that and keep getting whole holograms, but losing definition each time. And that's what many of us have done. We come into this world, that original hologram, and we cut ourselves. Mm-hmm. We cut our hologram. We can't be less than whole, says the wisewoman tradition. But we can be not as sharp as we came. So we can nourish wholeness without saying that we're not whole.
Yeah. So how about during this coronavirus, feeling whole?
What's the point of COVID? How can COVID possibly be of any benefit to anyone? I asked my mentor, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, once, why do people blame themselves for things they have no control over? And she said, because it gives them a belief in an orderly, controllable universe.
Yeah.
She says, it's chaos. It's not going to be orderly, but people need it. They need to think that. So what the wisewoman tradition says is both and, not either or. Mm-hmm. Look at where we need the mental comfort of that. But don't make it everything. You don't have to believe everything you think. You don't have to act on everything you feel. So I think that it can help us nourish, which is the prime word in the wisewoman tradition, nourish the observer. And nourish the part of us that says, wow, I really don't know. Let me tell you a somewhat involved story. In the fertile Central Valley in California, a great amount of produce is grown. It's estimated that it might be 80% of the produce eaten in North America. Wow. And it has to be irrigated because it's a very dry valley. Yeah. And that water, which is coming out of the Colorado River, mm-hmm. is rich in selenium.
Yeah.
And as the irrigation water goes through the fields and then comes out the other side, the selenium gets concentrated because it's too much for the plants to pick up. Mm-hmm. And it goes into the lake that the irrigation water goes into. Now, this lake is a very important lake because it's on the flying pathway of the migrating waterfowl.
Oh, okay.
Geese and ducks and all things are flying along that west coast. And this lake is one of their stop-off points. But selenium kills them.
Oh, God.
So this became a big problem because selenium was a toxin, right?
Yes.
Like the coronavirus, it's bad. So we have to get rid of the bad thing. So what they did was the Army Corps of Engineers came in and buried the lake. To protect the birds.
To protect the birds, yeah.
Meanwhile, down in the most southernmost town down there, San Diego, there's an orange peel crisis. Have you ever put orange peels in your compost pile?
Yes.
What happened to them?
They shrink.
And that's about it, right? They don't compost.
Oh, huh.
Uh-huh. As a matter of fact, orange oil is used as an antibacterial and antifungal,
Yes.
right? So the oil in the orange skin repels all efforts of all soil microbes to break it down.
Yeah.
So, and if you've ever squeezed your own glass of orange juice, you know there's a lot of orange peel that's generated by making one glass of orange juice, and go in any store and look at all those cartons of orange juice. Oh my gosh, orange peels, orange peels, orange peels. Well, what San Diego orange juice squeezers had been doing was just putting them in the ocean. After all, it's right there. Yeah, you know, there came a time when that did not fly. And they were not allowed to just dump the orange peels in the ocean anymore. So now the orange peels are building up and building up and building up, and they can't compost them, and they don't know what they're doing with the orange peels. And are they going to have to hire, you know, a train to truck the orange peels away? And this scientist at UC San Diego has found a mushroom that will actually eat orange peels.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The difficulty is that the mycelium, in order to get this mushroom growing, you have to get the mycelium growing. And the mycelium requires huge amounts of selenium. Meanwhile, back up north in the Central Valley, the lake comes back. Are we surprised?
No.
No, we're not surprised. No. And somehow, because life is good, the people who need the selenium and the people who have too much hear about each other and manage to come together. And this problem becomes a solution. I eat you and you eat me. If we remember that there's no toxins in the closed system of life, there's only food that needs to have the mouth that eats it brought there.
Mm.
And of course, it's true of you and I too, right? Right. Someday I'll be eaten.
Yep.
Right. Meanwhile, I'm eating.
Yeah.
But I eat you and you eat me. So the wise woman tradition is about nourishment. And I say that nourishment is a three-legged stool. Right? It is certainly what we put into our mouths.
Okay.
The food that we eat, the liquids that we drink. But it is also being heard.
Mm.
The nourishment of being deeply heard is something that is critical to the well-being of any human. And I think that this is one of the disturbing things about what's going on with COVID, is because we're being asked to stay apart from each other.
Yeah.
To be more paranoid about each other.
Mm-hmm.
I do not greet my friends with a hug. We kind of look each other up and down and they say, "Where have you been?" And if we hug, we turn our faces aside. So it's difficult to see this as something that we want, right? We can't see each other's smiles unless we're not in each other's presence. Right? It's very austere path we're being asked to take. But in every shamanic path, there are austerities, aren't there?
That is true.
That is true. So we become more self-reliant.
Yes.
In a way that encourages interaction. Not as self-reliant, "Oh, the rest of you go jump in the lake, I'll do it by myself." But as self-reliant. In order for each of us to be self-reliant, we need to work together.
Yeah.
In however we can. So there's that nourishment, the nourishment of being heard. And there's the nourishment of simple ritual. This is something that yoga gives me. Virtually every week for the past 55 years, I have done a yoga class. They wheeled me into surgery May 13th. I was out for 17 hours. Then they put me in an induced coma for 13 hours. Then I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And one of the first things I did, I got out of the hospital on Monday, so I went to my regular yoga class on Wednesday. Now, I slept through 90% of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't allowed to sit. So I laid there. But I was at class because it's a practice. And it nourishes me.
Beautiful.
Because it's a ritual. And ritual nourishes. And it allowed me week by week to see myself growing in strength and power. Some of the poses I've had to modify. That's okay. I am not to distort myself for the yoga. The yoga has to give way for what my body can do. But now I'm doing 99% of my yoga, and I'm well on the way to doing a split.
Oh.
You know, I told the surgeons, I said, listen, you're not operating on a Ford. You're operating on a Mercedes.
Oh.
Treat it with the respect you treat a Mercedes, but also expect the performance you'd expect from a Mercedes. So the lead surgeon, after I was in recovery a couple of days, came and said, you know, you said you were a Mercedes and not a Ford. He said, that's not quite right. I said, no. He said, no, you're a Ferrari.
Oh.
So I'm going to credit yoga, and I'm also going to credit Nourishing Herbal Infusions. And Nourishing Herbal Infusions are one of the best ideas I've ever had, because I see that people want to eat well. I see that people are desperately confused about what it is to eat well. I hear myself saying, listen to your body, and I hear people saying, I don't know how to listen to my body. I say, your body will tell you what to eat, and they say, no, it's too confusing. So Nourishing Herbal Infusions are a simple, inexpensive way to give your body such superb nourishment that usually within a week, always within 2 weeks, you'll be able to tell what your body wants. I think about Belinda. She came to Talking Stick and she said to me, I'm really mad at you. And I thought, oh, this is really excellent. She's only been here 10 days and already she's mad at me. That's good work. Right? The shamanic apprentice has the false positive transference. Oh, this shaman is like, oh, amazing and magical. And then the false negative, oh no, they're a demon, they're the devil, they're the worst possible thing. So I said, oh good, she's angry at me. She's starting to get to the false negative. And then on the far side of that is the true positive. Oh, this person might be a shaman, but they're also a messed up bozo human being like all the rest of us. So Nourishing Herbal Infusions consist of weighing out with a scale 1 ounce of dried herb, and I'll tell you a little about the herb that I use, putting it in a quart jar, bringing water to a boil, filling the quart jar at the top, putting a lid on it, and letting it steep like that overnight, straining it out the next morning, refrigerating the liquid, and drinking it over the course of the day.
Poof, just like that.
Easy, right? I tell you, people put the water up to boil while you go to brush your teeth. It takes about the same amount of time to boil a quart of water as it does to brush your teeth.
Okay.
Right? No waste of time. Do it at night. And zip, zoom, you are ready to go. I rotate through 5 different herbs. Okay. Stinging nettle, the herb of energy, oat straw. Well, we know about people who are sowing their oats, and we know about people who are feeling their oats. Red clover, an herb whose roots, the roots of a single red clover plant laid end to end, would encircle the globe. Yes, the connector, the herb that helps prevent and deal with cancer, the herb that really helps the hormonal system, the nervous system, the immune system, a really amazing plant. Linden. You've probably heard of turmeric being an anti-inflammatory, and because you were in India, you probably know how to consume turmeric. But let's face it, most people in North America don't.
Mm-hmm.
In India, the turmeric that you ate was turmeric that had been cooked first in ghee.
Yes.
It was always cooked first in ghee.
Mm-hmm.
And then perhaps some other, cumin seed, coriander, whatever is thrown in there. But the turmeric, right, the turmeric gets cooked there. And then some dal or some rice is thrown in with it, cooked with the turmeric and the oil, so that the turmeric actually gets into the grain or the dal, the lentil, and then water, and then cooked.
Yes.
And this is eaten at every meal.
Every single meal. Yeah.
Every single meal. To say that turmeric is eaten 4 or 5 times a day is not to exaggerate. No. You will never find a Western person who's going to get an anti-inflammatory effect from turmeric, because they're not eating it. They're not eating it 4 or 5 times a day. And I'll speak for myself. I don't want to eat turmeric 4 or 5 times a day. Thank you. I don't want all of my food to taste of turmeric and my kitchen to be yellow. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I have nothing against it now and then, but linden is the European anti-inflammatory.
Wow.
It tastes great. It's the flowers of this big tree. All right. And it's the world's leading flu preventative and flu curative.
Oh.
As powerful as elder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which almost everyone has heard about.
Of course.
But very few people have heard about linden.
Yes.
So I include linden in my rotation: stinging nettle, oat straw, red clover, linden, and comfrey leaf.
Okay.
Have you heard about the new proposed organ of the human body called the interstitium?
No.
The interstitium is composed of the fascia, which is the stuff that basically holds your skin to you.
Okay.
All right, and protects all of your internal organs. The fluids of your body, the interstitial fluids, the fluids around every cell, the fluids in your joints, as well as the mucous surface of your digestive system and your respiratory system, and the tendons and ligaments of your musculoskeletal system. In other words, all the things that hold us together is the interstitium. As a yogi, you're very concerned with the interstitium, aren't you?
Yes, very much so.
Very much so. And how wonderful to have a group of medical professionals saying, it's an organ, it functions together.
Okay, now I see. So they're saying the whole system is now this one organ.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, it's different systems, right? It's like the cardiovascular system, right?
Yes.
Right. We can't pretend that the heart doesn't have blood vessels and just treat the heart.
Right. Of course.
So we can't say, oh, you have a lymphatic system, but it's not connected to, the interstitial fluids. Of course it is.
Gotcha.
And as a yogi, again, that by moving people, we can move the energy, but we also move the body structurally, and structurally hormones and nerve firings change. Yes. So comfrey leaf is the herb that nourishes the interstitium.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. All right. It's one of the reasons that at my advanced age and at the trauma that I have gone through, I can still be this flexible, right? Yay.
Wow.
Comfort. Juliette Berkeley-Levy, the wonderful herbalist, took my hand one day at dinner and she said, well, this is a hand that doesn't work. And the reason she said that is because my hand is very flexible, but it's not rough. The skin is very intact and very complete, and that's comfrey.
Oh,
And
okay.
I say to people, I can show you my hands because that's, you know, polite. But it's inside and out, every part of my body.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. Nourishing herbal infusions. My daughter just went online to look for nettle leaf, and she was able to buy um, stinging nettle leaf, organic stinging nettle leaf, for $15 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's 16 ounces, so it's a little less than $1 an ounce, and that's what you're going to use on a daily basis. You're going to get every vitamin and every mineral that you need in your diet from that $1 of herb, that 1 quart of infusion, are between $30 to $50 a month. Throw away your pills. And what happened to Belinda, who was mad at me, was that her chocolate M&Ms did not taste good anymore. Of course, I'm always interested in why the apprentices are mad at me, because it tells me a lot about what's going on in their psyche. But I had never before had one that said, I'm mad at you because you made my M&Ms taste bad. I said, what? She said, I didn't realize that you consider chocolate a food group. I do. All apprentices are allowed to have as much chocolate as they want. There are things I don't want them to have, like fruit. They can have chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, so I brought my own chocolate. I brought M&Ms. She said, and I finished the first pound bag. And I opened the second one. She said, and I thought some animal had gotten into it. It smelled so bad. She said, and I put some in my hand and I brought them up to my mouth, and my mouth made this like kind of thing, right? And wouldn't let me put them in my mouth. You have ruined me. Don't tell your body what to eat. Let your body tell you.
Yes.
When you drink nourishing herbal infusions, you will be mineralized, deeply mineralized, and mineralized very, very rapidly, so that you'll be able to hear from your body. And your body will very clearly tell you, this works. Somebody said to me, I don't know, Susan, this sounds like I could just go out and get a cocaine vodka hot fudge sundae. I said, well, sure you could. But if you're actually listening to your body, you'd only do it once. Plants have cell walls.
Yeah.
You could drive your pickup truck over the lawn. Not over and over again, but you could drive your pickup truck once on the lawn, drive it off, and the lawn would be none the worse for wear. That's how tough the cell walls of plants are. Your teeth are not going to do anything at all to break cell walls. And remember, the cells are very tiny. The 5 ways to break the cell wall are to apply sufficient heat for sufficient time,
Mm-hmm.
to freeze, to dehydrate, to ferment,
Mm-hmm.
and to cover in fat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, minerals are the most critical nutrients that we need to get from our food.
Yes.
In the way that the breath is at the center of yoga, minerals are at the center of nourishment. Can you tell me how to destroy a mineral?
No.
There isn't any way, is there?
To destroy a mineral.
Yeah, your earrings are made of what?
Silver.
Mm-hmm. Where'd that come from?
The earth.
Mm-hmm. There were ore with silver
Okay,
in, right?
so heat.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we applied heat to get the silver out.
Yeah.
But it didn't destroy the silver, did it?
No.
Because the more you heat a mineral, the more of it you get.
Okay.
Cook your kale for 5 minutes, you get no minerals. Cook your kale for an hour, you'll get half the minerals in it. Cook your kale for 2 hours, you'll get almost all the minerals in
it. 2 hours cooking kale. Okay, this is new for
You
me.
bet. You bet. Now,
Slow cooking?
let me say that I do not send my vegetable for swimming lessons.
Yeah. Okay.
There are occasions when I will do that. We all love the cooking water from the beets.
Okay.
And I do. I fill the pan right up. I put the beets in there. I fill it right up to the top, cook the beets, and then we all fight over who gets the beet cooking liquid, right?
Okay. Yes. Of course.
But I'm not going to do that with the kale, because there are no fights over the kale cooking
No,
liquid.
nobody's.
Ah,
No.
right?
No.
So I start my kale with 1/2 inch of water. And I check it. As it cooks, I bring it up to a boil, right? And I do a lot of it at once.
a lot of the kale
Yeah, I might cook
in a little bit of water.
I might cook 2 to 4 pounds of kale.
Oh, wow. Well, it
Right.
shrinks. So,
So what's happening then is I'm going to keep watching. Now there's liquid in the kale, isn't there?
yes.
So that liquid, as it cooks, is going to start to come out. But I'm going to watch and make sure I don't burn it and add a little extra liquid if I have to. Right? Some stoves turn down, better than others. You bring it to a boil and then you turn it down to a simmer.
Okay.
Up in Scotland at the University of Glasgow, they just did a study on fluids and how well fluids hydrate you. And they tried 13 different fluids, and the one that was the very least hydrating of all was water.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the interesting new books is called Quench.
Okay.
And it says that we are actually destroying the planet in our pursuit of drinking water. Look at all the plastic bottles littering the oceans. And, you go anywhere in Indonesia, it's really just a huge amount of plastic bottles everywhere. Right. And in fact, better for us is the liquids from fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
And it was one of those boing moments. I'm like, right. Instead of desiring a stick of celery or an apple because you're thirsty, you're drinking water. So you're
Okay.
right. You're distracting yourself from the fruits and vegetables we want you to eat by drinking water. And that water is not hydrating you because every cell in your body is protected by fats. It's protected by a lipid layer. So the water, as we know, water and fats can't get in. In fact, the most hydrating was full fat milk because of the fat in it. The fat carries,
here. Yeah.
right? Well, there's Ayurvedic medicine, which I'm sure you encountered in India, but there's a subset of Ayurvedic medicine called Rasayana. And Rasayana is the study of longevity.
Okay.
And the first food of longevity is ghee. And the second food of longevity is milk. And when you're in India, a lot of milk and ghee are consumed, aren't they?
A lot. Every day. Fresh.
That's right.
I had mostly fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we think about our ancestors. Our ancestors were not thinking, what should I eat? Our ancestors were thinking, will I eat?
Yes.
So we take our minds out of the equation, or we take our minds to the store and we buy our herbs for our Nourishing Herbal Infusions. Notice I'm not mixing them together. It's 1 ounce of nettle or 1 ounce of comfrey, right? Or 1 ounce of oat straw. Linden is big and fluffy, so I only use ½ ounce of linden, but if you use 1 ounce, it's not the end of the world.
You're not mixing your herbs.
I'm not mixing the herbs, no.
Okay.
One at a time for intimacy so that you really get to know the plants and what they can do for you. There is some criteria that I use for what herbs I have in Nourishing Herbal Infusion. The first criteria is that it has to be a harmless herb in any quantity. So if your baby was to, by mistake, drink your quart of nettle, your baby would not like Milarepa turn green. Right. Right. We remember Milarepa and the nettle story, right? A great sage of India, right, who turned green from eating nettle the same day that he became enlightened. You keep on drinking your nettle, who knows what will happen? Perhaps it will do that for you. So these are safe herbs, right? People would say, I don't believe that comfrey is safe, but I can tell you that I've been using comfrey in a rotation of 5 herbs. That means every month I'm drinking 6 quarts of comfrey, right? 6 times 5 is 30. So I have 5 herbs. So every one of these I'm drinking a quart of 6 times a month. And that's 1.5 gallons a month. Or 12 times 1.5 gallons is 18 gallons of comfrey leaf infusion I've been consuming every year for the past 30 years.
Wow.
I suspect if there was something bad was going to happen, it would have already happened. People say, oh, it can mess up your liver. Well, my sweetheart, who easily drinks twice the comfrey that I do, because he really likes it, makes a big dash for it when it's the herb of the day, had a liver function test And he's also in his mid-70s. And the doctor said that his liver was functioning as well as someone in their 50s.
Wow.
So I'm not going with these stories that come free. I mean, we have people dropping dead every single day from taking aspirin that's supposedly going to prevent a stroke, right? And we don't have any literature of any kind that any comfrey has ever killed anyone.
Yeah.
So I wanted the herbs to be very high in protein, because I am a great believer in protein. One of the reasons that I have made such a strong recovery from my surgery is that my yoga was fed by the Nourishing Herbal Infusions, which contain large amounts of vegetable protein, plant protein, so that I was able to put on muscle. Right? I came out of my 2 weeks in the hospital at 120 pounds. In the past 5 months, I put on 20 pounds of muscle.
Great.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Plant protein. And that's not supposed to be possible at my age. Right?
Yeah.
But the plant proteins and the Nourishing Herbal Infusions really help you. I wanted herbs that were extremely rich in minerals, and that those minerals were biologically active in the body. You know, you take a calcium supplement, it's not biologically active. It just kind of sits around in the bones. And women who take calcium supplements are twice as likely to break a bone because it makes your bones brittle. Right? I wanted herbs that were rich in vitamins.
Okay.
And vitamins, I think, are perhaps the most misunderstood part of what we're getting. So I'm going to ask you a question that very few people can answer. So if you can't answer it, don't feel bad.
Okay.
Can you name a plant that's rich in vitamin A? So many people who are listening are saying to you, carrots, sweet potatoes,
Okay.
cantaloupe, tomatoes. But those plants don't actually contain vitamin A, because vitamin A is made by your liver. Those plants contain carotenes. And there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of different carotenes.
Okay.
And your body creates vitamin A from those carotenes. And the longer you cook a food, the more carotenes you get.
Okay.
So in terms of vitamin A, you're going to get lots more vitamin A activity from that kale that's cooked 2 hours. You get virtually none from the raw kale or the steamed kale.
Oof.
As a matter of fact, you can see all of those carotenes in your toilet.
Yes.
Because they haven't been cooked enough to be used by your body.
Okay.
Wow. B vitamins are water soluble. It's true. And so it's possible to cook something until the B vitamins come out of it and then throw the water away. You could theoretically do that. But your primary sources of B vitamins are whole grains, beans, including lentils, and meat. Which of those things are you going to cook in water and throw the water away? You're not. So the B vitamins are in the whole grains and the beans and lentils and the meat as cooked.
Okay.
And you're not going to eat those foods raw either, are you?
No, of course not.
No. Yeah. Okay. Right. Vitamin C is harmed by heat and water and time. As a matter of fact, just about anything harms vitamin C. But unlike other mammals, we don't need very much vitamin C.
Okay.
What's a healthy amount of vitamin C for a person to take in on a daily basis? You'd be shocked.
No idea.
60 milligrams. Not 300, not 500, not 1,000. 60. If you smoke daily, make it 100.
They really push vitamin C.
In fact, what we have found is that people who take vitamin C in pill form, 300 milligrams or more a day, are twice as likely to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
There's no supplement that is going to give you that nutrient, and there's no supplement that is safe and healthy. And you understand that supplements are not regulated.
Right.
They don't have to have inside that bottle what it says on the label. The Food and Drug Administration does not oversee supplements. And every time we have tried to get a law passed that it should be so, people are told we're going to take away your right to have supplements. And so they fight against the law that would, in fact, really protect them. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that all these nutrients are in these Nourishing Herbal Infusions. A, B, C, D, vitamin D, nettle actually has vitamin D in it. Mushrooms can produce vitamin D. If you take dried mushrooms, put them in the sun for an hour, they'll produce vitamin D, and it's heat-stable vitamin D.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Nettle has some vitamin E in it. Not a lot, but a little bit. You want some vitamin E? I encourage you to have a spoonful of peanut butter or almond butter, whatever nut butter you like. It's an easy, yummy way to get the vitamin E you need. So the plants that we've picked for the Nourishing Herbal Infusions, and you can find this in my YouTube channel, and you can find them in all of my books, right, are rich in protein, rich in minerals, rich in vitamins, loaded with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory, all of them to some degree. Linden is the best anti-inflammatory, but all of them are somewhat anti-inflammatory. Wow. Keep on eating whatever it is you're eating. Start drinking Nourishing Herbal Infusions, and things will change. Don't change your diet. Let your diet change you.
I am on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the herbal infusions.
Infusions. The
And
wisewoman tradition is so much fun because it encourages us to really take care of ourselves.
I am in awe of what you were talking about, the cooking of the vegetables. And that's the thing that's taking the most to process, because my brain still has it that I don't want to overcook. Like, I blanch my vegetables usually.
Right. But what do you mean overcook? What is
Make them mushy or
overcooking?
whatever.
What?
Make them mushy and not.
So, Zoe, would you come over here, please? Zoe, you've been here, what, about a month?
Yeah.
And this is my apprentice, Zoe, and every vegetable you've eaten has been cooked for at least an hour, yes?
Yeah. Yep.
Are they mushy?
No.
Really? So is
Not
it
in the least. I'm not sure where this idea of mushiness comes from.
I know. I'm
You've
shocked.
eaten carrots that have been cooked for an hour, yes?
Yeah. Carrots.
Mushy?
No. Collards.
Collards, 2 hours, right? No, not mushy.
So is it it's not.
Thank you,
So
Zoe.
thank you, Zoe. Is it a simmer?
Yes, you're actually cooking them. You're simmering them. You sure are.
Okay.
They have cell walls. You're not going to make them mushy. I think where this mushy thing comes from is a mom who opened a can of vegetables, right? And proceeded to cook those vegetables for an hour.
Okay, my Irish mother probably.
That you might be able to make mushy.
So then I have another question. You mentioned about juicing. That's another shocker. I juice every single day.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know. I'm like, oh my God. So you're saying no on the juicing and yes on the long cooking.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Your ancestors who lived 10,000 years ago juiced their food?
No. Now it sounds so silly after this whole conversation.
Right. It requires you to plug into electricity. It requires you to be a consumer in the modern culture.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to stop juicing and see.
Right.
I'll get intimate with it and see what happens.
Exactly. And all you're going to get by juicing a plant is the interstitial fluids. And what's in those interstitial fluids is flavoring. So you get flavor.
Yes.
Right. Coloring. So you get color.
That's
right?
true. There's flavor.
Sugars. So you'll get a lot of sugar. There's more sugar in a glass of carrot juice than there is in a soda pop.
Yeah. You can taste
right?
it.
You can taste it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Sweet.
Right. And water.
Yep.
But you're not going to get any vitamins or any minerals. You can't get the proteins or the polyphenols.
Okay. All right.
because that's all locked up inside the cell wall. And you're just getting what's outside the cell wall.
Okay.
Not only that, I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables when they're cooked, frozen, dehydrated, fermented, or covered in oil. A woman came here with a half bushel of apples from her tree. I said, oh, apples, we'll put these over here. We don't have to deal with those right now. And I'm trying to deal with all the food we need to refrigerate and cook and what I'm going to do with that. And 2 days later, she says to me, those are summer apples. You have to cook them now. We have to eat them now. It's okay. And she takes an apple. There's, as I said, about 15 women. This is pre-COVID. And she takes 15 apples and she slices them up beautifully and she makes a spiral and she takes her own honey from her own bees and she spirals the honey around in the spiral of apples and we serve it. And there's a few apple slices left at the end. We take the rest of the half bushel of apples, quarter them, take the core out, cook them down, make applesauce. It's about 90 apples. And we serve that applesauce and it's gone at one meal. How many apples did each woman eat? 6 apples.
Yeah.
You're gonna eat more when you cook your food. You're gonna get more vegetables. You're gonna get more fruit. And we've been asking you for many decades now to please eat more fruit and vegetables.
So you said earlier about the fruit, like, oh, the woman with the chocolate.
I said, right. I said that the apprentices are not allowed to eat fruit.
Because I eat fruit, but it's so sweet that I've never been a huge fruit eater.
Right.
But I eat fruit. But
when I introduce fruit to them, it's either dried or frozen.
so is that how you would suggest eating the fruit? Because I love dried fruit.
Yes. Well, how did your ancestors eat fruit?
Yeah.
Dried, primarily. And many native groups, if they live where there's a cold winter, won't go out and harvest until after a frost.
Yes. Okay.
So that the berries are frozen. Because that breaks the cell wall. That's what we want. We need the cell wall to be broken. There's a color change and a texture change when that happens. So we can see it very easily.
So when you say frozen, you mean like, say I have a bunch of kale, because I eat a lot of kale.
Yeah.
You would put it in the freezer to break down the
No, you're going to cook it.
Cook it.
For an hour.
Yeah.
Cool it.
Yeah.
And then freeze it.
Oh, okay.
And that way you will get even more minerals because you're doing 2 of those things. You're both applying heat for sufficient time and sufficiently hot and freezing.
Okay.
And then if you want to get even more from it, you'll put some oil on it when you eat it. Or some fat, right? Some ghee, some oil. Yes. So the more of these techniques we use in any one food, the more nutrition we'll get from it.
It's fascinating. I do use a lot of oil.
Yeah.
A lot. Okay. So you said freeze, heat, oils. So when you say oil, that's what you meant. So you cook it, oil it, or cook it, freeze it, oil it, and then ferment, of course.
Ferment, of
ferment,
course.
Which is wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Ferment is great and magnifies the vitamin content. So oil, you don't have to marinate, but you can.
Okay.
I'll tell you a funny story. There was a man who was studying, scientist, and he was studying zeaxanthin, which is a kind of carotene, and it's found in things like watermelon. Watermelon is a particularly rich source, and zeaxanthin is particularly healthy for the eyes. And so he was feeding volunteers watermelon in various ways, and then measuring their blood for zeaxanthin, and there was no zeaxanthin in their blood. And he was like kind of, metaphorically tearing his hair out. And he had a dream that these volunteers and himself were eating watermelon in this frozen wasteland. So he went back to his study, froze the watermelon, and gave it to the students to eat, the volunteers to eat, and sure enough, plenty of zeaxanthin in their blood. Even something as innocuous as watermelon is not going to give up its nutrition raw.
That is amazing. Okay.
So what I do is I make watermelon soup, and we cut up the watermelon, and we peel, seed, and then slice cucumbers very, very thinly, and we mix them together with extra virgin olive oil, organic extra virgin olive oil, mint vinegar, and a little bit of salt. And that marinates overnight. And the cucumbers get a little limp because they've been sliced thin. And the watermelon is really crisp and crunchy. And the whole container of it looks like you made tomato sauce. The carotenes have been so freed up.
Wow.
The liquid from the cucumbers and the watermelon is bright orange. So that's an actual marinade, right? We can also do that with a gazpacho, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You make it ahead and you let it marinate in that oil. But you also, even if you just pour oil on your salad, are going to get the benefit of it. In an interesting study, they looked at breast cancer and salad consumption.
Okay.
And they only looked at women who ate salad every single day.
Okay.
So women who ate salad every single day and never put salad dressing on it had as much breast cancer as women who never ate salad.
Okay.
Women who ate salad every single day and put low-fat dressing on it or no-fat dressing on it had as much breast cancer as women who never ate salad. But women who ate salad every day and put 2 tablespoons of good quality oil on their salad had a reduction in their breast cancer risk. And this, as I'm saying, the salad doesn't have to marinate. It doesn't have to sit around. Just putting that on your salad. People often say, Susan, you talk so much about, there being no nutrition in raw. And yet when we come to the Wise Woman Center and have lunch, there's a salad and it's raw. So I don't get it. What's going on here? And I said, well, I'm actually being kind of sneaky. As I talked a little bit about the microbiome in your gut before. And we've been, scientists have been doing some research on the microbiome. And one of the things they've come up with is that, especially in westernized, industrialized countries, that what's missing from the gut is soil bacteria.
Soil?
Soil bacteria, bacteria from the soil. When you were in India, how much dust and dirt do you think you inadvertently ate?
So much.
Right?
So much.
I mean, we're not talking that the food, like dirt is poured in the food, but there is dust everywhere. And the food is prepared close to the earth.
Yes. Very close to the earth.
They throw a banana leaf down on the ground and then cut up their fish, but it's prepared real close to the earth.
Very close.
So there's soil bacteria on our food, but we live in a culture in which everything is in a container.
Yes.
In a package, in a package, in a package.
That's true.
And so and we didn't get soil bacteria because we're washing our hands all the time.
All the time.
All the time. Well, there are no transmissions of COVID through food. None. Nobody has gotten COVID from eating. I started the year saying, you can pick a group salad together, or here's your bowl, you can pick your own salad, right? Whatever you need to do to feel safe in COVID days, you do it. But now I say, you're not going to get COVID from picking salad. You're not going to get COVID from picking wild plants. We're all going to do it, right? Let's wash our hands. Let's go out and pick the plants. We put them in a salad bowl. And what you're really getting is soil bacteria, right? It's just a good green way to get that soil bacteria into your gut, which is going to wake up your ability to really listen to what your body wants.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a whole salad. Start by going outside and picking a single leaf of any wild plant that you know. Most people know dandelion.
Yep.
You can pick a single wild leaf of dandelion, eat it just like that without rinsing it. You'll be getting that vitamin C you need. A single dandelion leaf will give you about your daily requirement. And you'll be getting those soil bacteria, which will prime your gut to make more active use of the other nutrients. There's a wonderful herbalist named Michael Moore. And I was with him at the last class that he taught. And we really wanted him to talk about nettle, and he didn't want to talk about nettle. And his health was quite compromised. And so he would sit at a table and we would bring him plants and he would talk about them. And then we actually got him in his wheelchair and we were wheeling him around James Duke's big herb garden. And so it was my turn to wheel the wheelchair. And there was the nettle patch. And I said, all right, this is it, Michael. I'm wheeling you right into the nettle patch unless you talk to us about nettle. We've been asking you, it was a week-long class. We've been asking you day after day and you keep refusing us. This is it, right? You're on the line. You get stung. Are you? And he turns around and he says to us, he said, turn my chair around. So I turned his chair around. He says, the minerals in nettle are the opposite valence of your blood. Next plant. So what's a valence?
I don't know.
A charge. Like negative or positive charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to opposite charges? It's attract.
It's attract, yeah.
Right? So if the minerals in nettle are the opposite charge of your blood, it means, and I have seen this in action, that when you drink that nettle infusion, no digestion is necessary. It goes directly, the minerals go directly into your blood as though you were getting a transfusion.
Wow.
This is why the results are so fast. People say, you cannot change people's bodies in 7 days. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Wow.
Amazing stuff.
Amazing.
All the children that I know went from breast to infusion. And they're teenagers. They still love the infusions. They know them by name.
Wow.
So once you get the healthy habit of drinking nourishing herbal infusions, everything else becomes so much easier in your life.
Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the store.
Right.
I'm on my way. I'm like
On the way,
excited.
right.
I'm going to make
And
my list.
Right. At first you'll be going to the store, but then once you start to see, wow, I'm using 2 pounds of herb a month, you're going to start to buy it by the pound.
Oh yeah, I'll probably go online.
Probably, yeah. But start out at the store. It's good to support your local store.
Well,
but eventually you'll start buying it by the pound.
And I have nettle tea here. Like I drink that regularly.
Mm-hmm. There's about 3 milligrams of calcium in a cup of nettle tea and about 300 milligrams of calcium in a cup of nettle infusion.
Yeah. When I was in India and Nepal, I used to pick up trash all over this one particular temple every Saturday with this group.
Thank you.
And it was quite fun. And every Saturday we'd be over the cement wall, like picking up all the bottles and, the plastic bottles and everything. And all these Tibetan ladies and these Nepali ladies would be down there with their bags picking all the nettles.
That's right.
Scouring the mountainsides for all the nettle. It was amazing. So they know what's up.
They know what's good. When I make nettle soup, I bring the water to a boil, drop the nettle in, and usually cook it for at least 4 hours.
Okay.
Right. And even then, it's not anywhere nearly as rich in protein and mineral as the nettle infusion, because the nettle has been dried. You only make infusion from dried herb. And let me be clear, we don't want to use any scented herb to make infusion. Everybody's had the opportunity to make a pot of chamomile tea and perhaps not drink it all, and then next morning say, oh, I'll just finish this pot of chamomile tea, and ooh, it tastes bad, and you look at it and there's like oil floating on the surface of it. So the scented herbs are scented because of oils they contain, and the long brewing that we want to extract the minerals will also extract those oils, and they're not good for your kidneys or your liver.
Okay.
So we're not going to make a mint infusion, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to stick to herbs that don't have a scent.
Gotcha.
So we could use things like dandelion root or burdock root. We could use chickweed or cleavers or mullein, and we could use rose hips or amla berries or ashwagandha root, although who would want to drink ashwagandha root? Yuck. Right? But it's a safe, nutritive herb, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank
right?
you.
And
Oh, what?
go ahead. And although it has a taste, it's not from an oil. It's not really strongly scented. A strong taste.
Yeah, strong
Interesting.
taste
Yeah.
and strong scent are different.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then with the infusions, you said it in the very beginning, but how long do you boil the infusions for?
You don't actually boil the infusion at all.
Oh, soak it.
The easiest thing to do is to get a scale and a quart canning jar. Put the quart canning jar on the scale and push T-A-R-E, tare. And then the scale will say 0. It'll take away the weight of the jar. And then you weigh 1 ounce of herb into the jar. And take the jar off the scale, turn off the scale, put it away, pour the boiling water into your jar. Using a wooden spoon, stir the herb into it until the herb is fully wetted and the jar is filled right to the top. Put a lid on it and let it sit for 4 hours or overnight.
Okay.
Pretty easy, huh?
That's easy.
It takes less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I do a monthly show for healthylife.net, and this year has been devoted to nourishing herbal infusions.
Oh, wonderful.
So in addition to my YouTube channel, which has, I think, a dozen YouTubes about nourishing herbal infusions, and you can see me and my granddaughter actually making them, you could also go to healthylife.net and find their just voice. There's no video. Me talking about each of the different nourishing herbal infusions and the specifics. Also in my green book, which is one of my first books, Healing Wise, I talk quite a bit about herbs that are favorites of mine. I'm going to get this book so you can see the pretty cover it has. Here we go. All right, so this has herbs that are wonderful as nourishing herbal infusions: dandelion and burdock, chickweed and violet, right? Oat straw, right? So, and this also talks about the 3 traditions of healing that we were talking about: scientific, measuring and fixes, the heroic, balancing and cleansing, and the wise woman, nourishing the wholeness of the unique individual.
Wonderful. And I'll put that all in your information on your speaker page.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so people can just click right on it and just go straight to it.
Right.
Yay.
Hey, our green book. Right, there's a new book out called Abundantly Well.
Yes.
Which talks about another good idea I have, which is the 7 medicines. But I don't know how much time we have left.
I mean, go for it if you want to.
Oh, sure. Zoe, would you do me the favor of getting the copy of Abundantly Well, which is in the healing room? I think you'll see it. It's sitting right up on top. So the 7 medicines are serenity medicine, story medicine, mind medicine, lifestyle medicine, alternative medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and deep medicine. The first 4 medicines, serenity medicine, story medicine, mind medicine, and lifestyle medicine, are what I call foundational medicines. And these are the medicines that we want to use every day. They build health.
Okay.
Right? Yoga, for instance, is part of lifestyle medicine. It's a foundational medicine. The last 3 medicines, alternative medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and deep medicine, may save your life, but they will always injure your health.
Okay. I understand that. Mm-hmm.
Right? The surgery that I had was completely successful. We got clear margins. There was 0 lymph node involvement.
Okay.
I do not have cancer. They never want to see me again. Hooray for deep medicine. But it wasn't to make me healthy. I'm in charge of making me healthy, both before and after.
Yes.
That deep medicine. We don't know what life is going to bring us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we use the foundational medicines. Right. Yoga has helped many people begin to understand serenity medicine. Mm-hmm. That yoga insists that we go between quiet and activity, at least yoga as I learned it.
Mm-hmm.
I see that there are now some brands of yoga in which people are kind of treated, like they're in some athletics thing. But of course, one of the real gifts of yoga is teaching us that alternating activity with quiet gives better tone to the muscles. Now, I'm trying to find this quote here. Don't run, don't do yoga, and don't go to the gym every day, says professional coach Scott Trapp, director of the Human Performance Lab. If you go hard every day, you will never be able to do your best. Rest is what gives you your potential. If you really want to get the most from your workout, you will rest in between sets of reps. And that's exactly what yoga has us do. We do a pose or a few series of poses, that's in the sun salutation, and then it's pose of child. And serenity medicine, let yourself go. Right? So many ways to engage in serenity medicine. And interestingly enough, this book was going to be published about 20 years ago, and things happened as life does. And so the upshot of it is that we're 20 years ago, I would have to say, trust me, serenity medicine works. I can now give you all the scientific studies that have been done on serenity medicine. I can now show you that medication lowers blood pressure as well as drugs. Right? I can now show you that meditation is incredibly helpful for people who are anxious, who are depressed, who have post-traumatic, right, distress. There's a whole host of absolute problems that people have that science has shown that serenity medicine can alleviate. And if it doesn't, you haven't lost anything by learning about serenity medicine. You have improved your overall health. And so I suggest starting with the first medicine, serenity medicine, setting yourself a time limit and then going on if you need to.
Yes.
It's such a delight and a pleasure being with you. I want to remind everybody that herbal medicine is people's medicine. It's a medicine of the people, by the people, and for the people. Herbal medicine grows right outside your door. You don't need a license. Everybody recognizes dandelion. It's a great place to start.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for your wisdom and your joy and your energy, sharing that amazing knowledge. You know, it's like my mind is blown right now.
Oh, you know, a dear friend of mine decided to adopt a raw food diet, and we did a video called The Raw versus Cooked Debate, and it's available at YouTube too.
Oh, great. Yeah,
So it's an hour long. We were able just to scratch the surface, but we go into quite a bit of detail there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So awesome.
All right. Green blessings, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.